Derek Chadwick was one of West Australia's finest sportsmen of all time, excelling in cricket and football. And he represented West Australia with distinction in both sports. His strong suit was his temperament for the big time, and the bigger the game, the better Derek Chadwick played. He played 269 games with East Perth in the West Australian Football League, 21 state games including the 1961 Brisbane Carnival and the 1966 Hobart Championships. He made a mammoth 22 final round appearances and 7 grand finals. He won the Simpson Medal on the 1964 Eastern States Tour, which took in the MCG Hobart and Adelaide. He was third in the Sandover Medal in 1964. And he won the Channel 7 Footballer of the Year and the Daily News Footballer of the Year in 1964 also, so it was a very big year. He was captain coach of East Perth in 1967 and 1968. I suppose on the downside, Derek played in 7 losing grand finals. But the record books show that Derek didn't play in a premiership side, and Derek, that's not quite right, is it?
Well, it depends how you look at it. If we're counting the Brisbane Carnival as a premiership, we certainly played in one there.
We'll count that.
And that was a memorable one.
Derek, any thoughts re the carnival up there? We'll get to it later on, but it was very exciting at the time.
Oh, I think some of my best thoughts about football relate to that. Certainly the welcome home was magic, and the fact that people were crawling on the rafters at the Perth airport and you could barely get through the crowd when we got back was absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Incredible, and Kalgoorlie was almost the same.
Yes, it was.
We put down in Kalgoorlie, and of course Joe Fanchi had kicked the winning goal.
Well, Joe Fanchi was the hero, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Derek, I often wonder about dual sportsmen such as yourself. How much better cricketer would you have been without the football?
Oh, I think you would have had to have been a better cricketer. The fact that you went from one to the other without any real preparation was something of a handicap, I suppose, although outweighed it to a certain extent by the fact that you were fit and ready to go. I think there's little doubt that had you concentrated on one of the sports, you would have been a better player.
Did you put much winter effort into your cricket?
Very little. Well, vice versa too, I think. Very fortunate to come through a stage where we had understanding coaches, particularly on the football side, where if you'd already made your mark, I suppose, then the pressure wasn't greatly put on you to duck out of cricket games and play football.
I suppose the one thing you can't teach football is to concentrate, and cricket being such an endurance test at the level you played, maybe that concentration taken into football was a big help.
Oh, I think they complement each other. I mean, concentration in cricket obviously is very important. I think playing 2 sports, you probably learn to relax at the right times and to concentrate at the right times. And I think those sorts of things stood me in good stead.
Now, it all started down the southwest, Busselton, primary school at Busselton, and then high school in Bunbury. I'm told you were a pretty good sportsman even at that stage.
Well, born and bred in Busselton and brought up there. I came from good stock because my mother played state hockey and state bowls and won the women's golf at the Busselton Golf Club 19 times, I think. And my father was a very good sportsman and also held at one stage the state record in the ladder event with the fire brigade. So I was brought up on sport and certainly started playing at a young age.
Now, one of your teammates at school was the present Governor of Western Australia, Lieutenant General John Sanderson.
Yes, it's great to catch up with him on the odd time that we do now. But there are a lot of pleasant memories, I think, back there. I started playing in the Southwest National Football League at age 16. One of the articles that Ross Elliott, the great journalist that covered footy, wrote was about one of the early games where apparently I took a screamer over one of their legends in South Bunbury. Ted Hoskin was his name, 6'2". The thing I remember most about it, and the thing I suppose I remember most about a lot of the sport that I played, was the fact that I kicked it straight to a South Bunbury player, and I tend to remember those sorts of instances when I do something wrong rather than...
You were playing for Busselton?
I was playing for Busselton, yeah.
And what part was cricket sort of filling in for football then, or were you deadly serious about your cricket?
Oh, I think at age 16 you just, I mean, cricket and footy were the two big sports. In the country you get involved in everything anyway. I didn't have a preference one or the other. You just played cricket in the summer and footy in the winter. And as it happened, my father, well, my parents were friends with Mr. Jack Gabberty, who was a committee man at East Perth. So they approached the folks while I was down there and invited me to go to East Perth. So when I came to the city, that was already set up. And I was lucky enough to start cricket at Nedlands at the same time, where Ken Muirleman was the captain coach. So
you had Sheedy as a coach at East Perth.
And Jack Sheedy, who was fantastic at East Perth, yeah.
And do you remember much about, like an 18-year-old coming to East Perth? I mean, in those days, East Perth were on a real roll, weren't they? I mean, Sheedy had joined them in 1956 from East Fremantle, and they were either winning premierships or runners-up almost every year right through till 61. So it was a pretty exciting time, and I would think a pretty hard team to break into.
Oh, it was, and I don't suppose I expected to at the start. I mean, the thing I remember most about arriving at Perth Oval, I was lucky enough, well, I was at Teachers College where we finish early, so I was able to get to training early. And, you know, I'd be the second or third one there, and Polly Farmer was out running laps already. And I can still picture that as one of the lasting memories of arriving at East Perth, that Polly, the champion that he was out doing extra work even before training commenced. So it was a good lesson.
Yeah, and you only played a couple of games that year. You didn't play in the grand final. They went premiers, of course.
No, I probably helped them by not playing in the grand final that year, but East Perth went premiers. I played mainly thirds, but some seconds. And East Perth went on and won. When I started next year, we started our losing streak. So, and then, as you know, when I finished, we started our winning streak again. So I didn't help them greatly with premierships.
Well, it was a great East Perth side. I mean, Tony Bellos was on one wing, a real speedster, and Paul Seal, who, you know, complimented Polly Farmer to an absolute T. So it was pretty hard to break into that side.
Oh, it was a great side when you John Watts, Don Langdon.
Yeah. Just go on, don't you?
Seal and Bellos, and there were just so many, and Jack Sheedy, and he was a fantastic player. I mean, I can still picture him at East Perth, the robust man that he was, and the ability to drop kick a ball out of sight and to handball it nearly as far. It was, you know, a fantastic memory.
Oh, 60, you're regular for East Perth?
Yes.
On a wing?
Yes, 60. I played every game.
Went to the middle, didn't
played, yes. And was a regular from then on. Yeah.
And you were runners-up that year to West Perth, I think.
We were runners-up to West Perth before our... Yes, and I think in 1960, I think we came third.
Well, you lost the grand final to West Perth in 1960. I remember Foley, Big Blue Foley, won the Simpson that day, so he must have put in a pretty good game against Big Pole. Oh,
we had a lot of exciting clashes, I think, with West Perth, and the Brian Foley, Polly Farmer clashes were a highlight of them.
Well, they had some wonderful players too, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Yeah. The Perth Derby.
Yes, well, I mean, you've still got fond memories of fronting up to 15 to 20,000 people at either Leederville Oval or Perth Oval, and the West Perth clash was always one of the really big ones.
Yeah. Now, 61 was a real upset. That's when my team, Swan Districts, who hadn't looked like beating East Perth all year, just bobbed up in the grand final. That would have been a pretty bitter pill, I would think, at East Perth.
Yeah, I thought you might mention that.
We might dwell on that, actually.
Yes, it was, because we'd had a very good win in the second semi, and would have expected to win. Grand finals are funny things. They're won on the day, and we didn't perform as well as we had in previous games, and Swans they played an outstanding game. And I tend not to dwell on too many grand finals, because I've been through a few, and perhaps the fact that I went straight from one grand final into cricket practice the next week tended to make it easier to move from one to the other without dwelling on the losses at that time.
Yeah, Jack Sheedy and Graham Farmer were really bitter about that game, because Jack and Polly both said they thought that was East Perth's best ever side in 61.
Well, we'd had an outstanding season, hadn't we?
Oh, yeah.
And
you'd had an outstanding season. Like you had 15 Sandover medal votes that year.
Yes, I mean, I don't remember much about individual performances at that stage. I suppose 64 was my very best year. I think from a young age I've been a competitive sports person and tended to go into every game and tried as hard as I could. I think when I look back on the grand final results, I again tend to think, well, I played as well as I could. There's not much point in getting too down, particularly as time goes on. I think they're just fond memories that we were there. And we had a great side, and we had a great period of football at East Perth.
And you had your cricket, and that was a nice buffer for you.
And cricket was always something to fall back on, yes.
But you did win a premiership that year. You made your debut with the West Australian State side, and that was quite a debut to make in the Brisbane Championships. And you played on some pretty good players up there. Like I can remember Brian Dixon, I think, won the Tassie medal. And
yes, he did. Brisbane was fantastic. I remember the Victorian game only marginally. I remember in one instance where I had to try and stop in the way of, I think, a big bloke called Brian Teasdale, who was charging down the side, and I had to try and stop him, which I did, but I probably suffered because of it with cork legs and things like that. The lasting memory is of Gabelich at centre-half back. I mean, it was a time of epic movies, and one of the memories of them is of Samson standing up and withholding the Philistines, I think, and Gabelich was like that. I still can see him, a huge man as he was, standing at centre-half back and just knocking the Victorians back as they tried to approach him. And it's a fantastic memory, and it was a brilliant time, I think, for Western Australian football.
And he went into the ruck.
Yes.
And I came off the reserves bench to centre-half forward, and they were like missiles going down after he hit them in the centre. And he hit them that hard that you had to try and catch these missiles which are heading down past centre-half forward. So maybe we wouldn't have won without Gabelich in that game.
Oh, I doubt if we would have, but it was an outstanding team as well. I mean, the Ray Sorrells and the John Todds, I mean, you can name all of them, I think, were outstanding players in their own right. So it was a great memory. And
you got a Tassie medal vote up there too, I noticed. And there wasn't a lot of votes given out in the Tassie, but you had a pretty good carnival.
You know,
you
more
played in
than
every game.
I played in every game, yes.
Well, after the glory of that, 62, and that was a bad year for East Perth. The farmer had gone off to play with Geelong, and what sort of an effect did that have on the East Perth side?
Well, it obviously had to have a huge effect, because Polly basically set up the play from the middle, didn't he? I mean, the way that he could fly and take the ball in two hands and fire it out to somebody running past, his mobility, his outstanding fitness. You can't just lose a player like that and replace him in 5 minutes. We had a couple of average seasons, I think.
He organised players around him, didn't he?
Oh, he did.
Paul Seal, Kevin McGill.
Yeah.
And it looked like Chatty that he would say to them, you be in a certain position at a certain time and it'll come out that way.
Well, it probably looked like that. I don't know whether it was actually planned, but it certainly was great, I think, to be able to feed off a player like Polly, and once they go, maybe it's a little bit harder to win it yourself, but we missed him, certainly.
Yeah. You still had a good side, like Don Maringo, I think, was in the centre in that year, and yourself on a wing, so you still retained a good side, but the side had been very much centred around Polly, and all of a sudden that battery wasn't there, and it just took you a bit of a time to settle again. Yeah,
it's hard to answer too, because clearly we still had a lot of good players. I would think 61 probably knocked us around a little bit too, the result. And it took us a while to regain the momentum that we had before then.
Well, you had another state tour, and after 61, 62 was the next year. We were to play in Melbourne, and I remember the journalist for the first time ever got behind the game and promoted a state game, which the Victorian journalist had never done up to that stage. We got 65,000 people on the MCG. Yes,
I think that was the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of. But we got whipped, unfortunately. But again, good memories. I think I played on Brian Dixon, and remember the social function after it where I thought I'd done reasonably well, but in speaking to Brian, he soon pointed out that he'd won 4 of the quarters, I think, and that I hadn't done so well, but I think the Victorians always had a lot of self-confidence.
Well, memory of the Melbourne cricket ground is that most of us couldn't play there at all except you and maybe Ray Sorrell. Now, I found the ground very hard to play on, but it was very muddy compared to our grounds, but it didn't seem to worry you a great deal.
No, I think it's handy to be built close to the ground, isn't it? But I never had any real problems on it. I think, as with all players, you probably got tired a little bit more quickly. But the big open spaces suited me, I think, and I enjoyed playing there.
Obviously. And Brian Dixon might have thought he beat you on the day, but I remember you were clearly our best player in that game. So the muddy ground didn't affect you. You ever have any offers from Victoria? I mean, after playing well on the MCG, did the offers come through? Or?
I think I did one year, but it's a difficult situation. While I was involved in footy and cricket, as I didn't really want to move interstate. One of the years I had an offer, so I went to East Perth as one's inclined to do and say, can you up the ante a little bit? And they were very generous in offering me to coach the fourths and an extra $300, so which I was silly enough to accept.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, but no serious offers, no.
63 was a season where East Perth started to come back. They ran fourth, played Swans in the first semi-final, I remember. I remember that game well because it was very wet and the scores were level at three-quarter time. And you might not remember that because we got up and won by 8 goals, but East Perth were back in business. You know, they'd had this year with Polly away and seemed to be back in business again.
Well, it didn't follow into 64, I don't think.
No.
Because 64 was a pretty ordinary year.
Yeah,
no, I don't remember that
64 you ran last, and that was the end of Sheedy's 9-year stint with East Perth, which had been magnificent. But in 63, in the state game, that was one of the great state games, if you remember it. We went down by a point, I think it was, to Victoria. And that was one of those really great Saturday games that we tended to have here in those days.
Yes.
In the 60s, we had some very good state games here.
I think we always ran them close. I suppose it's similar to what's happening in the AFL now, where eastern state sides come over to Subi Oval and don't play as well as they do back home. And most of our state games at Subi Oval, I think, were very tight and close games. Yeah,
there wasn't much between the two states about that time.
No.
You know, we were sort of very competitive, especially here. We weren't over there, of course. Now, 63, you won East Perth First and Best for the first time.
Yes, I did.
And I think you won. You were third in the Sandover medal.
No, I can't remember that.
Not far away either. You were behind Ray Sorrell and Frank Pike.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was always competitive. I think I don't remember a great deal about the 63 season. I think 64 was my best season, and perhaps for a couple of reasons. East Perth had a poor year, so I suppose it was good to stand up and get votes in that year. But 64, I won the car and came third, I think, in the Sandover medal. Unfortunately, East Perth had a pretty dismal year, so that cancelled that out to a certain extent.
Was Jack Sheedy near the end of his tether then? Do you think his interest dropped away? I mean, what was the reason for East Perth finishing last? I mean, usually you look at the coach and say, well, he's been there a long time.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I've got a tremendous respect for Jack Sheedy. I think he was a fantastic coach. I know that when I went to the club as a young player and as a phys ed teacher, I was pretty fit and worked very hard. And in those days, he'd send me off from training at half an hour before the rest of the team. That sort of thing really didn't happen after that. After Jack left, I think everybody started to be treated exactly the same. I think Jack was a great student of character and was a great tactician, I think, and a really good football coach. I can't say why we weren't good in 64. I take it we'd lost a few of our players and we're in a rebuilding stage.
And it was a bad year all round because we went to Melbourne and got beaten by about 20 goals, as I remember. And that was a real shellacking. I think Doug Wade kicked a dozen or something like that on Mal Atwell, I think he was playing on. But you were still our best player again on the MCG, Chatty.
Oh, I enjoyed the state games. I think you key yourself up and you work hard at them. They're the ultimate when we were playing footy. So it's nice to have gone out there and done well.
We went down to Tassie and won by 20.
Yes. Yeah, well, I've got sad memories of Tassie in most instances because I I think it was in '64 when I got cleaned up down there, and
66 you got cleaned up, I remember, in the carnival.
Okay, well in '64 when I won the Simpson medal, I got cleaned up in Tassie to a certain extent, where I was hospitalised, I think, when we went to Adelaide for a night because I was peeing blood. That recurred, or the similar thing recurred later on, but so I was injured there. When we went to the carnival, I was carried off unconscious, and the only thing was that I hurt my ankle. My head was all right, but my ankle wasn't too good. So not great memories, I think, of playing on the Hobart Ovals, but they were still good times even without that.
Yeah, I remember that trip we went back to Adelaide, and I think everybody got the flu, and we got a belting there. Although we didn't play too bad in Adelaide, but with everyone with the flu, we didn't expect to win. And same year, I think we beat South Australia back here in Perth. So, but the state games were enjoyable, weren't they?
Oh yes. And
the guys got on pretty well together, which was interesting.
Oh, I think it's excellent to bring all the clubs together. You might be a bit of rivals when you're playing on a Saturday afternoon, but to be able to play together and get to know them better was fantastic.
Yep. Now that was I remember that game too. That was a very wet day at Subiaco Oval, if I remember rightly, when we beat South Australia. I remember Curley was captain coach of South Australia, and they had this gale blowing in the last quarter, and they were kicking with it, and we held on.
Yeah, and they had some really good players. I mean, I remember the South Australians, I think, more than the Victorians, as far as my own personal duels were concerned. Kenny Eustace was good. John Cale, who coached at the AFL later on, was excellent. A guy called Barry Barber, he was a very good centreline player.
Darley was a big ruckman.
So they had very strong teams too in those days, and we had good clashes. Yeah,
very competitive games. Well, Jack finished his 9-year stint with East Perth, and another high-profile coach in Kevin Murray, and he stepped in 1965. You ran 6th, you didn't make the 4, but did you find him a lot different to Jack Sheedy?
Yes, I think he was. I mean, he was a brilliant player and a very dedicated player. But I think the training routines tended to be the same, and you tended to work long. So I probably missed the Jack Sheedy influence at that stage, because I was probably having to work longer and
harder. Not
necessarily hard. I think just the endurance factor comes in. Sometimes little blokes don't need to be running the same distances. We rely on it being short and sharp and getting the ball. He was a good coach and a very good sportsman and a very good man, I think. Yeah. But we didn't have great success in that first year.
No. You started playing cricket in 1963 in the stateside, so all of a sudden you had the cricket and football really going. You made centuries in both your first 2 first-class games. Was there any thought that footy might have to go, or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've always expected that you played cricket for 6 months and you played footy for 6 months. The fact, I think, that it had been proven that I was a pretty good competitor influenced the cricket selectors to give me a go. Because reading through my files the other night, I certainly hadn't done too much at Netherlands to deserve selection.
But that's the sign of a good selector, Chatty, isn't it?
Oh, I think it is.
You know, I mean, you've got to see more. I mean, if it was just about taking wickets and making runs, your mother and my mother could select the side. You've got to look a bit deeper than that.
Oh, I think they do. But they put their positions at risk to a certain extent, because if it doesn't come off, they're the ones that cop it. But I'm certain that my football background and the fact that I was a good competitor paid off, and I think from a cricket point of view, it's very true. I mean, one of the other things about playing sport for 12 months of the year is that there are times when it gets a bit boring, it gets a bit hard. I think I guess I was a little bit of a stirrer when in my younger days when I was playing, and I tended to try and lighten the situations when I could. And I was able to relax off the field and concentrate on the field. And that certainly helped me at the start of the cricket. And I think because I'd been successful as a sportsman, I went out in the first few seasons and just played my natural game. And if the ball was there to hit, you hit it, and you didn't worry about reputation. So I think as you play a little bit longer, you do start to think about reputations and think about technique and think about how you should be playing. And often you suffer because of it.
Cricket grand finals ever encroach onto the footy season?
Oh yes, they did. I had at least one where I played a cricket, I think it was a semi-final, on Saturday morning, and then went and played, I think it was against West Perth on the afternoon. So that was interesting. In fact, if I recall rightly, I got caught behind for 65 or something like this on the Saturday morning, and walked halfway off the ground, and the umpire called me back, said you weren't out. So I had to get myself out again and then go after footy. I think we lost the footy too. So
the grade cricket was pretty strong in those days also, wasn't it?
Oh, I think it was always competitive.
And you had like Steamer Wilson and guys like that.
Yeah, I think we had great clashes, and Middle and Guildford had a pretty fair, experienced lineup. Yeah, and the cricket was very competitive.
Yeah. Now, 65 was one of the really great interstate games from my point of view anyway. We beat the Vicks in 1965 at Subi, and it was just one of those magnificent state games played in front of a very big crowd. And we won by about 9 points. And Bobby Skilton was captain of Victoria.
I'd like to be able to comment on it. Unfortunately, I can't.
Yeah, I remember that one because it was just one of those really tough games of footy where I think everybody on the field made a contribution. And,
I think when you ever played the Vicks, they were tough contests, but they were more even in Perth than they were in Victoria. And we certainly won as many as we lost, I think, over here.
Yeah, I remember the Tuesday game of that year was quite an unusual state game. It was almost an exhibition game where no one played on any opponent. We just whoever had the ball just broke clear, and it was something about 20 goals each. I remember Austin Robertson kicking about 8 goals, and it was just one of those most unusual state games. The big game was the Saturday, of course. Yeah. Now, 65, you married Jan.
Yes, I did.
Another very good decision.
Yeah, 65, I got married. And I mean, everything worked out well there. We're still happily married. And I also changed jobs and went to work at Hale School. So
from?
It was from Governor Stirling Senior High School, yes.
So you had some good training before you went to Hale?
I did.
In a good area?
Up in the area, yes.
Now you had 2 children, Chad?
2 children, boy and a girl. The girl was very competitive like me, I think, but went on to do different things. And the son also was pretty competitive, probably too competitive, and played a high standard of tennis and hockey, and steered away from my sports, not with any encouragement from Jan or I.
Grant's in Victoria now?
Grant's in Victoria in the Federal Police Force, yes. Yes. And unfortunately the daughter's just moving there as well. So I might have to pick up sticks and go and live in Victoria.
Chaddy living in Victoria, I'd like to see that. Yeah. Well, it was a good decision because you and Jan are still together, and that's 38 years now. So
that long?
Yes, and you're coming up to 40 years, Chad, and that's Ruby, of course. That's costly. 66, well, 65 was 66 with Kevin Murray again, and again you were runners-up to Perth, and it was that was the time that Mal Atwell shifted to Perth, and what a time he had of it.
Oh, Mal was an outstanding coach, wasn't he, at Perth, and they had a fantastic 3 years, I think it was, when they played great football, and they had great sides as well.
Did they beat you every year in those 3 years?
I think just every year, yes.
And Cable won Simpson every year?
Yes. Yes, unfortunate. But we did our best, I think.
The Cable had a very special way of playing. That must have been annoying, where he would just drop into the back line and almost to a man everybody would handball to him because he was such a magnificent kicker of the football.
Yes, he was, and I guess in those days, and I think back on my 2 years as a coach and think, I enjoyed them immensely, and we had success to the extent that we got into the grand final each year. But you wonder now whether or not you shouldn't have been thinking about playing man on man or working out some sort of tactic that might have nullified that. Things are easy in hindsight.
Yeah.
But and it also makes you reflect, I suppose, on your coaching ability. I think always, as I said, been a good competitor, but I haven't spent that much time studying the game and tactics and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And on reflection, I probably wasn't a good choice as coach, because a good coach would have been going home and working out ways and means of nullifying opposition in those grand finals, and I'm afraid I didn't.
Well, I think you're a bit hard on yourself, being the grand final both years, but the Cable style of play in those days was most unusual. I mean, they would always give the ball to him, and he was shrewd enough to make himself available after they would sometimes take a long time, hang on to the ball for a long time till he got in position, and so it was pretty unusual.
Oh, I think it was, and he was an excellent player. But you look at today's football and a number of these good players that are tagged the whole time that they're there. I mean,
no,
he wouldn't find it as easy today as he did then.
No. Now the Hobart Championships weren't a happy one for you, Chad. We were coming off 61 and we'd won the 61 championships in Brisbane, and 66 was 5 years later, and we had a pretty good side together again. But you ran into a big ruckman named Alexander in about the first quarter of the first game of those championships.
I'm not sure that I ran into him. I think he might have run into me somehow.
Well, you'd be a bit crazy running into him because he was
right.
like a...
And woke up in the dressing rooms, I think. Yeah, that was football. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I think I've played 13 years of football and basically haven't got a joint injury that worries me at this particular stage. I was knocked out on that occasion.
Well, you were in hospital for quite a few days, weren't you? Almost the entire carnival.
No, I think I played on at least the last game.
Did you? Against Victoria?
I think so. So I think that, I mean, I had concussion. My ankle was worse than my head. I don't believe I was in hospital for too long on that one.
But the game against Victoria was a magnificent game. I mean,
was it?
How we lost that, I never know. I mean, I can remember leading by 5 goals halfway through the third quarter, and the Victorians really grumbling and growling and not happy with each other. And in 10 minutes, France had gone off the field, and Bagley had got himself injured, and Stewart had gone to the centre. He was a good player, Chad.
Yes.
Ian Stewart.
Yes. I think, and in Hobart, the same as in Victoria, the grounds are slightly heavier, and I think Western Australia's tended to run out of legs a little bit towards the end. That wouldn't have helped.
Well, you were an established state player then, and you were an established state cricketer, so you're spending a bit of time in the eastern states with cricket and football.
Well, yeah, the cricket carnivals used to be, or the cricket tours used to be interesting because you used to spend a month away from home. Excellent for your cricket. Not too sure about your domestic relationships, but
the money was good.
$4 a day or something went a long way. But they were good times too, to spend that time away with teams, and for your cricket to be practising every day and playing every day certainly assisted.
Yes.
Assisted that.
Now, Chatty, the appointment as captain coach of East Perth in the middle of this cricket and football was you took on a big task. Now, was Jack Sheedy your assistant, or he was somewhere involved with you, wasn't he, when you were coaching?
I think he was an advisor if needed. He didn't really have much of a say at that stage. But we had Jack Clayton and other senior staff members around East Perth who certainly assisted. Again, I think when you play sport, you try and reach the ultimate, and to be invited to coach a league side was just something that you couldn't refuse. And wouldn't want to refuse. I'd never had ambitions to do it. But the opportunity to actually do that sort of job at a club like East Perth was just a great opportunity.
I just came off Subiaco about that stage. I nearly joined you.
Yeah, well, you've had a few runs there too, haven't you? So it is something different, something unique.
I remember the grand final. You went down to East Perth, only to Perth by 3 goals, and again Cable won the Simpson. But if I remember right, it was a pretty rough start to that grand final. Did Atwell run into young O'Donoghue?
Yes, I think Mal Atwell ran into Mark O'Donoghue. I mean, that happened in a few finals, and they're the sort of things I suppose you expect when you get into grand finals. And if you lose a good player in the first few moments, then it probably does have some sort of moral effect on you.
He was a pretty shrewd coach, Atwell, wasn't he?
Oh, he was a good coach, and he was a very strong and fair player, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I used to love playing alongside him at East Perth, so I knew that I was reasonably safe. And when he went to Perth, he coached them the direct method, and they played really, really good football.
Well, I feel like you about Mal Atwell. I played a lot of state football with him, and he was a good man to have on your side.
Oh, yes. Yes, I mean, there have been a few of those around, haven't they? But I mean, it's always great in a good team to have some good, strong men
Exactly.
who are there to support you.
Now, that year also, you won the minor premiership by country mile, didn't you? I think you had 68 points, and if I remember rightly, Perth were about 52 or something. I mean, you finished
I think
way
we
up.
had, in one of those, we had an outstanding season.
Was Sid Jackson playing about that time? I think he was, wasn't he?
Sid Jackson was an outstanding player. In one of those grand finals, he had injury problems, and we decided to play him, which might have been the wrong decision in hindsight. In one of the others, I didn't play because I'd had corks the week before and tried up until the night before to rectify it. So it was disappointing from my point of view. So injuries play their part on some of these finals. Sid Jackson was an absolutely outstanding player.
Yeah, and a good state player too.
Yeah.
East Perth must have been reasonably happy with the job. I mean, grand final, first year as coach. I mean, there wouldn't have been any pressure from the club about not continuing, for instance.
I don't think so. I mean, you lose a grand final, I think people are always, a certain number of people are always unhappy. And we'd had a run of seconds. The club may have been reasonably happy with my performances, but I'm sure deep down there are many that would still be pointing the bone. I guess I had a 2-year contract, so that had to stand.
Were you a better player as a player or not as a coach with your competitive nature?
I don't think it had a marked effect. I still played reasonably well through the 2 years that I coached. I think you've got to have good people in the grandstands, if that's the case. I think captain coaching is a pretty hard road, and unless you do have good advice and a very good team, you have problems with it. Malat will show that he could do it.
Yeah.
We hold it at the final hurdle, I suppose. So it's hard to answer that.
68, of course, you played in the first semi, and you played in the preliminary final, and lost to Perth again in the grand final. So you really, that year, you did it the hard way, but still made the grand final.
Yes, we did, and I think we won a couple of games where we came from behind. So it was very good from our point of view to see that we could fight it out. And I think against West Perth we only got a goal in the last 2 or 3 minutes, and so the fact that we could stand
you won
up
by 3 points, didn't you? The prelim, yeah.
So I mean that was a good sign. Unfortunately, in some of those instances, playing hard games in the finals up until the grand final also takes its toll.
Exactly. The state game that year where you lost to Victoria by I think 9 points, but that was an outstanding game between outstanding footballers. I mean, I just took a note of some of the guys in the Victoria beat West Australia by 9 points, but some of the Victorians, Chad, were Nichols, John Schultz, Hassaman, Skilton, Jesselenko, Dennis Marshall, Dittrich, Goggin, Hudson. I mean, that's a pretty strong side, isn't it?
Oh, it's
Victoria?
a very strong side. I mean, I think in WA you still took the AFL as probably being the pinnacle, and those guys over there, I think, were legends, even though we played a high standard here ourselves, and to have the opportunity of playing against them was absolutely outstanding, and I think something that we really cherished.
And we had an outstanding side also, didn't we?
Oh,
you could name just about as many great players in our side. So I mean, it was an outstanding game of football. And in '69, did you resign or not renew your contract, or was you happy to sort of get into your cricket and footy again? And
no, I think '69 we'd lost 2, and I think the club.
Oh, Jack Sheedy came back.
Yeah, the club decided that I'd had a chance, and I think that was fair enough. I was probably disappointed to some extent at the time, because I suppose there were a lot worse teams. But the right decision was probably made. Jack Sheedy came back for the '69 season, and I think we lost another one.
12
to
goals.
Perth.
You lost to West Perth. You won 12 goals,
okay.
Chaddy. So, but Mel Brown won the Sandover that year.
Yeah, well, he was an outstanding player.
Yeah, well, he
was a fantastic player.
Centre half forward was he that year?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And was appointed coach, I think, the following year, and did a superb job there. I think one of the most thorough coaches in preparation and planning and things like that, and enthusiasm and the ability and the willingness, I think, to try different things. I think he was outstanding.
Yeah, you had a good year after losing the coaching job.
69.
You had 11 Sandover medal votes that year, which was a good year.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I enjoyed my footy.
Yeah.
And I suppose without the pressure of controlling things, to go out and play was a relief in many aspects.
Now you went to the Adelaide Championships?
I was captain in Adelaide.
Captain?
So that was one of the other highlights. I don't know where that came from, but I captained the carnival team.
How come you dropped Polly out of the team?
Don't think I was a selector. Were you?
I wasn't a selector, but I remember they left Polly out of a game, didn't they? Mel Atwell was...
Yeah, Mel was coach, wasn't he? Yeah.
And you left Polly out of one of the games, and he was on the interchange bench.
Right.
Was it interchange in those days? I'm not sure.
No, just reserve still, I think.
But I remember you beat Tassie, you lost to South Australia by 2 goals, and then lost to Vicks by about 8 goals. But I remember Polly had a great carnival apart from that.
Well, Polly was a great player, wasn't he, at any
34,
stage? Well, even then, and the finals that he played at West Perth, he was still a great player.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that decision might have been made to rest him and bring him up for the other games, I couldn't say.
Well, whatever it did, it certainly spurred him on, because I remember he became a great player in the carnival, and I think selected in the All-Australian side again.
Yeah.
Well, Brownie did take over in 1970, and you lost the preliminary final by 4 points that year. But Brown, obviously, only a young man then. He would have been, what, early 20s, I suppose?
Yes, he was. I think he was only about 22, 23 when he was appointed. But as I say, he was a very good coach, and I think he worked very hard towards lifting East Perth and getting them back to the top again, which he did in 72.
Well, that preliminary final, you lost by, what, 4 points or something, but I remember East Perth kicked 7 goals in the last quarter and very nearly won that game. That was in 1970, Mel Brown's first year.
Well, you remember those things better than I do.
Yeah, well, I remember I was commentating at the time, and I mean, you should have won the game, and not many games, final round games, are won from 7 goals behind.
No.
71, you were runners-up again, to West Perth, by 5 goals. Big crowd that year, 50-odd thousand people.
Yeah, well, I mean, the grand finals always had big crowds, and I think Polly polished us off there as well in 71.
He was a great captain coach of East Perth.
He was a very good captain coach and a very tough player, I think. In his early days, I think he was brilliant with his ability to fly for the ball, and in later times just so hard at the ball all the time and still feeding it out. So he was a very good player.
And he teamed beautifully with Bill Dempsey.
Yes. Oh, they had outstanding players too, didn't they? Melvin and Bill Dempsey. And, so, yeah, just another loss, just the 7th, I think.
What was the feeling at East Perth when Polly decided to join West Perth after coming back from Geelong?
I really couldn't comment. I don't know. Probably disappointment that he didn't go to East Perth. I think, in fact, it probably goes earlier than that Polly might have been a chance to coach in 67, 68 when I was appointed, and that may have been one of the reasons that in the final analysis Polly went to West Perth rather than to East Perth.
I suppose he was almost a consummate professional at that stage. He certainly played like that.
He was all the way through, I think.
And when there was some money around, I suppose he now is so established that he had to look at that side of it.
Yeah, so I don't know why that was, but I think in reading his biography, in fact, that he was interested in 67 and 68 and didn't get it. So
it's a great compliment to you.
Well, I guess it is. Yeah.
It is, yeah. 72, was that always going to be your last season, or did injury decide the issue for you?
No, I intended to play 72. I was still enjoying it. It just so happened that halfway through the season, playing against East Fremantle, I think Brian Peake ran into my back, and I was a bit painful after the game and drove home, and then found that the pain was excruciating as I lay around waiting for my wife to come home. So I had kidney problems then, hospitalised, came back 2 or 3 weeks later, played against Claremont, and found that I was peeing blood again. and decided that that was it. It wasn't worth risking things any further.
That was before the final round.
That was, it was well before the final round.
And because East Perth won the premiership.
East Perth won the premiership.
So the first year
I helped them again.
The first year you joined East Perth in '59.
They won.
You didn't play, they won the premiership. And the last year you had with East Perth, you couldn't play because of injury, and they won the premiership again.
That's a good record, isn't it?
And the only premiership you've got is the '61 Carnival, and that's...
No, I've got a couple of cricket ones.
That's cherished.
I'll take the couple of cricket ones with it.
Footy these days? Happy the way it's going?
I mean, the footy's great. It's disappointing, I think, that the waffle's been decimated. It's disappointing, I think, that we're not really represented by true Western Australian sides. But the AFL footy's still fantastic, I think.
Like the 3 umpires?
I had no trouble with one. No. I think there are still problems with the umpiring here and there. I still flinch when I see people being suspended for running into the umpires and perhaps putting them on their backsides or things like that. No, I think it's their problem. If they get in the way, then they're entitled to be run over to some extent. And 3 umpires has assisted that, haven't they? There are people in the way, and there are still a few things like that get to me a little bit. But the footy is great to watch.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Best coach you ever played under?
I think Jack Chadwick was the best coach I played under. He was outstanding, and I suppose I was impressionable at that stage, more so than later on. But I think he's the standout. Best
player you ever played on?
That's a very hard one, because Brian Dixon was a Tassie medalist. There's been a lot of great centreline players, I think, in Western Australia over the years. And it's hard to isolate one. I've played occasionally on Mel Wynn, and I didn't play very often on Greg Brio, but he was outstanding. You go back to Wally Martins and people like that, Darryl Cormack's. I don't think I'd like to pick one. I think they're all competitive.
Could you nominate the best player you've ever seen, regardless of where he played?
Well, I think Polly's still the best player I've seen. Polly was the most complete footballer, and the only footballer that I can think of that actually revolutionised the game. I mean, Polly turned the game on its head, and I don't think any other footballer's done that.
Is there any game that stands out in your mind as outstanding?
No, as I say, I tend to move on, and I haven't got intense memories, I don't think, of any of those games. Perhaps if we'd won 5 or 6 grand finals, I might. But even the state games, I mean, the Brisbane atmosphere was the best of all time, I think, from my point of view. But I don't think there's one outstanding game that I can pinpoint.
No. You loved your cricket, Chad. 65 games, nearly 4,000 runs, 9 centuries, 14 half centuries. But I just want to talk briefly on the opening partnership with Colin Milburn, and generally your opening stands with Colin Milburn. That must have been pretty exciting.
Oh, that was absolutely outstanding. I mean, the people that knew Colin Milburn, and not too many these days do, but a big, robust, not very fit English cricketer who hit the ball beautifully. And I was fortunate enough to open with him for 2 or 3 times, and in Brisbane the year when we made, I think, 328, I've been looking it up, and he made 230 odd of them.
243 and you made 91.
And I can still picture him lying on his fairly sizable stomach and crashing a ball through third man for 4 that basically broke the pickets and things like that when he lost his balance. But the cricket years were great, and it's a different atmosphere around the cricket than it is around the footy club. Yeah. It's not as, I suppose it's as intense, but it's a different atmosphere, and the cricket years were fantastic years. Yeah.
What did he talk to you about in between overs? He was a funny man, wasn't he?
Probably used to say, I'm not running any 1s or 2s or 3s usually, and made sure that we didn't run too many singles or quick runs, and he'd concentrate on hitting 4s. Didn't have to talk very much. His actions were louder than his words, I think. So yeah, no, that was a great experience.
Well, you have a record, Chad, in cricket that I don't think a lot of people share with you, but you made a century in every state of Australia, and that is quite a unique record.
Yeah, well, that's a fond memory. It's nice to look back on the fact that you have played both football and cricket on most of these grounds, and have scored 100 on the MCG as well as played reasonably well there, and on Adelaide Oval, I suppose. Well, in all of them, is a fond memory. Yes.
Well, congratulations on a wonderful career, and thanks for the interview.
Thanks, Spud. It's a pleasure.
Got some stills there you want to put on the end of this?
Brian's got them.
Oh, Brian's got them. Okay.